Thanks for staying with us. Now let's take a look at what's making the headlines on the papers around the world this morning. Of course, we begin with our sister publication, This Day newspapers. And right here, the boldest headline on this day is, with e-transmission, direct primaries, Senate gives power back to the people. Excitement over electronic transmission. Many hail direct primaries as PDP kicks. And other headlines in This Day newspaper: Mohammed, Nigeria in dire need of national unity government. There's more. 19 months to go. Buhari urges ministers to pace up on goals, directs the SGF to convene quarterly meetings to review government's priority and areas. Of course, the SGF is the secretary to the government of the Federation. Those are some of the headlines making waves in This Day.
Now moving on to the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. The top headline here says, federal government moves to award Intel's multi-billion naira boat service contract, while the BPP and MPA kick as COI demands 25 years tenure and 25% commission. And also there's a report by the Daily Trust. 1,153 civilians, 176 security personnel killed in just 3 months. They have a breakdown of killings in 3 months, so between the months of July to September of 2021. And this can be found on page 5. There are also more headlines. Insecurity, 62 private jet owners shun customs verification. And abducted KB students freed after 100 days in captivity. All this and more in the Daily Trust.
Well, the nation carries a statement from the Nigerian Senate saying they bow to public on e-transmission of results. A rider that follows that Wike Oye Ekweremadu Lord decision. INEC says they will wait for President's assent, as that will be the final notch for that decision by the Nigerian Senate yesterday. Above the nameplate this morning, Reps OK Southwest Development Commission, customs duties, 91 private jets, risk forfeiture. Agency declares 57 others. And soldiers shot, many injured in Abga rally shooting. Rain of tributes for Ndubisi Kanu in Lagos.
Let's move on now to the Punch newspaper. The top headline in the Punch: INEC awaits Buhari's nod on e-transmission of results. Existing law stipulates manual collation. Amendments requires the president's assent. That's what the electoral body is saying. More headlines for us from the Punch newspaper. Right at the top, Nigeria's export profile, same in 40 years, below Vietnam, Malaysia. An AFDB advisor is saying 8-month fuel imports garb $690 million amid forex scarcity. Still on that issue of foreign exchange, we heard the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo speaking earlier, and his assistant making a clarification. More here. Delinquent debtors exploiting Nigeria's judiciary to frustrate recovery. Those are the words of the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele. And finally, from the Punch newspaper, customs threaten to impound 29 private jets over import operational offences. Find that report on page 28.
Now let's take a look at some international papers. The Daily Telegraph here says Brussels to offer new Brexit deal for Northern Ireland. More headlines here. The world's biggest shipping company diverts vessels away from the UK amid driver shortage. And just beside that, Treasury to cut electric car grants weeks before COP26.
Well, let's bring in Emmanuel Bello for the press review this morning. Great to see you, Emmanuel. Midweek edition. Let's begin with This Day as usual. Of course, it's leading with the e-transmission, direct primaries, and the Senate making a U-turn on its earlier decision. It's been described as a win for democracy, a win for the people. What do you think, Emmanuel?
Emmanuel Bello at this time. While we get our technicians to work on that, I would say it's an interesting development, and I think I like it. We're looking forward to a point where we could even vote from our homes, if that's possible. I know there are challenges with network connections, the internet, but this is good to see the Senate taking a walk back after criticisms and comments from citizens. If people know that their votes will count when they vote, it will encourage a lot of more young people to step out to cast their votes.
Indeed. This is truly a big win for democracy. You recall that the electoral body in the country, INEC, had insisted time and time again to say we have the capacity. We have used this in 2 off-season elections in Edo and Ondo State, and it worked pretty well. And I think largely a lot of people agreed with those elections that they were fair and credible. And so INEC insisting we can do this on a wider scale nationwide. But earlier, the federal lawmakers had said INEC had to be subjected to another commission, which is the communications commissions in the country, to give a nod. And of course, the Senate, the federal lawmaker, the National Assembly would also have to give a final take before INEC could go ahead with electronic transmission of results. But yesterday, there was a U-turn with that decision, and it's been hailed as a win for the people, a win for democracy in Nigeria. Emmanuel Bello, do we have you at this time? We still don't have Emmanuel Bello. But another thing that happened yesterday during this review was the direct primaries.
Okay.
The National Assembly okaying, the Senate okaying the direct primaries for political parties. Some parties have hailed this, and this day reporting that many are hailing this, and but PDP is kicking to say, allow the political parties decide what they can do during their internal democracies, during their internal primaries. Don't subject them to direct primaries only. But the Senate didn't seem to
PDP,
agree with that.
PDP is the opposition party. I think it's their job to kick against anything that's been said by the leading APC.
While we wait for Emmanuel, let's take a bit of
some
other
international headlines.
Yes, all the foreign papers at this time. Very quickly, The Guardian is leading with the EU offering an olive branch on Northern Ireland goods. I do hear we have Emmanuel at this time. Emmanuel, finally, we have you.
It's good to be back.
Very good.
Good to be back. So what are your thoughts on the decision yesterday at plenary?
Yeah, I think we've all agreed. I think it's almost like a unanimous agreement across the country that this is a very revolutionary development, and I think everyone seems to be in agreement that this is the best thing that can happen. I used to joke about this, that if you believe in e-banking, and if you can trust the banks with your money, that if you deposit your money there, or if you send money to people, they will get it. Why can't we trust e-transmission of results of election and something as important as that? So with this, this, I think everybody is in agreement. It's surprising that PDP is kicking against the delegates thing, which is another revolutionary beat in that story, that now you are going to have candidates directly, you're going to have direct primaries. What that means is that if Kenneth, for instance, wants to run for office, he doesn't need to go look for people, who are called delegates, who will vote for him. And because it's a system that's been abused in the past, you have a situation where the people even actually keep high delegates away from candidates and then or aspirants, and then they get to control them. And there are people who not are back in the state. There are people who will not even go to their local government for any kind of election. They will stay back and become what is called the governors or the government candidates. This new thing that happened yesterday is dealt with all of that. You go to the people directly to actually even become the candidate of your party. And I think that is quite extraordinary and outstanding in our politics.
Emmanuel, it's indeed a brilliant analysis comparing electronic voting to the what we have in the banks. I mean, if you trust the banks with your money and transfers being made via your app, then you should trust that when you cast your votes, that it will be counted as well. Let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. Still on this issue, INEC awaits Buhari's nod on e-transmission of results. I'm bringing this up because before the previous election, I mean, the bill was ready, but the president refused to sign it, saying it will disrupt things. Should we expect the same thing in this instance?
And I like the way the Punch captures it. You know, the other papers have reported it very well. For instance, this day said, power has been given back to the people. And INEC is saying, Punch is saying, well, we're waiting for what the president will do. That's another way of looking at the story. The Senate's done its part. What will the president do? And this is pitting the president against the rest of the country. This story is putting the spotlight on the president. And we must stay on this story. We must see what the president will do. Last night, big politicians telling me that they believe strongly that the president will assent to this. We'll be watching that to see what he does. The ball is in his court literally now to see what he will do. And then the Punch is starting with this to put the spotlight or the searchlight on him and see what the president does with this. But it's coming from an APC populated Senate, so to speak, and then a lot of people believe that the president probably won't have a problem with assenting to this, but I don't want to second guess. The president will wait for his assent on this, and the Punch is already looking at that and saying, well, INEC is waiting for the president. We're all waiting to see how the president does this.
Emmanuel Bello, moving on to insecurity and the Daily Trust. They've done a special report, and they're reporting that between July to September of this year, 1,153 civilians and 176 security personnel have been killed. Emmanuel, this is really disturbing.
Yes, Daily Trust in his style of actually even putting things in graphics, came out with all of that and say, here, look at the numbers, look at the figures, look at the data here. This is not just reporting the problem of security, this is actually putting, so to speak, numbers on it and, hitting us with the stark reality of the security crisis that we have. So they've gone beyond just reporting that this has happened, they are presenting figures and numbers. And it's almost like, what will I call it? A serious indictment on how we have managed the crisis of insecurity. And while the president at the retreat is talking about his efforts in those areas, asking his ministers to do more, trying to rewrite his own legacy, especially in the area of defense, and saying he's going to spend more of the budget on defense spending and all of that. Daily Trust is almost putting up a reminder that this is what has happened to the security profile of the country. This is what the figures are saying. This is almost like a report card on what you've done in the security. I think it's a beautiful report, especially that it's easy to grasp. The figures are there. You begin to understand the depth of the problem, not just by the stories we are telling, but by the figures now we are churning out for the public to see.
Indeed, potentially a race against time for this administration. Thank you so much, Emmanuel Bello, for reviewing the papers with us today.